Hi everyone, welcome to week 4 for PR3. I'm just going to quickly try and get my screen sorted in order to be able to share information. Hope you guys are doing well and all is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally share my screen in terms of what we need to discuss. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a challenge here in terms of getting my screen to actually share. So I just need to get the settings in order to everyone to see my screen. For some reason, it's not sharing. It's gone into load sharing. So just bear with me for a few minutes while I get it sorted out. Okay, so for some reason, I'm really struggling with this. Let me just do this, and so that we can get going. Okay, I'm just waiting for the slide to come up. Okay, cool. So just a couple of things in terms of this week, which is week 4. I just need to just give you some housekeeping rules from the academic manager and in terms of what needs to be done. So from the 15th of March, which is tomorrow, please, if you're not on campus today and you don't already have your registered valid student cards, please do so. Please get them, because unfortunately from tomorrow, which is the 15th of March, the gates are going to be locked and you won't be able to get in to the campus if you do not have your registered valid student cards with you. So Boston Media House takes the safety and security of their students and their employees and all of the lecturers very seriously. So this is purely from a precautionary point of view that we want to keep everyone safe and sound. And yes, so just bear in mind that and don't forget your student cards, otherwise you won't be allowed on campus. Then in terms of preparations and for the lectures or for the week, how it works, like I've mentioned for the other weeks that you guys have joined, very important is that the roadmap is shared prior to the actual week. So you would have seen last week by Thursday, the week 4 roadmap would have been uploaded indicating what we're going to cover in class this week. So what we do is our approach is in the sense that because you are on PR3, supposed to be on a strategic level, the onus is upon you to look at the readings that need to be done. The emphasis also is on the homework that needs to be done. I am not going to scold or shout at anybody. I mean, that is just not in my nature. If homework is not done, homework is not done. If the readings are not done, the readings are not done. Just bear in mind when it gets because everything you do for each of the weeks is a culmination, and it's building you up to your formative assessments, right? So you had already started on your formative assessments. You got briefed in very early. The second week, you actually got your formative assessments. I gave it to you, did the briefing with you a little bit earlier to give you a head start. So I hope that you're progressing in terms of what needs to be done for the formative assessment one. I just really need to emphasize that all the work that we've been doing since week one up until now and in the coming weeks all contribute towards your formative assessments, and that includes the homework. So the homework is for you to actually get an understanding of what needs to be applied and things like that. So there are certain instances where students wait for the last minute to actually come through and do their assessments. They wait a week before it's due, 2 weeks before it's due, 3 weeks before it's due even, and then it becomes a rush. And then, so unfortunately, remember, this is not a hand-holding exercise in terms of going through everything in the textbook and every bit of information there is available. There's a lot of reading that you actually have to do. And please, please, please try and just be as disciplined as possible, because this is for your own benefit, right? So what we're going to do is just touch on, in terms of, there was a homework for last week that needed to be done, and we will cover that. So I want to firstly just go through the crossword. I'm going to stop sharing this screen and open up another document that I should be able to open up. So the one was a crossword that you had to complete. And yeah, I just want to get there. Yeah, so I'm actually trying to do this in the middle of load shedding, so it is a bit challenging for me. So I'm not sure if you can see this. So the crossword puzzle was on the paradigm developments in terms of completing this, and the homework was to send it to me by yesterday, which was Monday. So you had from Thursday up until yesterday to send it through to me. I haven't received it, so that's fine. What I'm going to do is I am going to share with you just in terms of the crossword that was supposed to be done, just what was supposed to be done for that crossword. I'm just, okay. So if you look at the screen, these were the, so one across is reviewing various disciplinary paradigms to understand Stratcom as a concept. One across, the answer is transboundary, okay? Then in terms of 3 across, doesn't exist out of com, that would have been interpretive, right? Number 4 is balanced approach to com, that's 4 across, and that would be symmetrical. 5 across, comms tools means to achieve organizational success. So 5 across would be functionalist. And then 6, paradigm that considers influence of power relations. 6 across would be critical. And then if you look at in terms of down, the info can be transported between people in different contexts. So 1 down is transmission, and then in second one was imbalance in position of various parties, which is 2 down, which is asymmetrical. So basically that was your crossword puzzle. Unfortunately, Mbali and Nipo, you haven't sent it in. So yeah, it would have been a nice exercise for you to have done. But nevertheless, we will be moving on. I'm now sharing my screen. So in terms of, and the purpose of the crossword puzzle, by the way, was to try and get you to be able to work around the terminology and getting used to it, especially around chapter 2, where there's a complexity of terminology. So we're going to go through the roadmap in terms of week 4 and what we're going to do here for this week. So a key word in strategy, in public relations is strategy. So what we're going to do is one of the readings that was required from the class was in order for you to read chapter 3, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to look at prescriptive and descriptive strategy and the role of social change, right? And what this chapter does, it outlines an overview of social change as an emergent force and its role in strategy formulation. It also highlights the emergent nature of strategy and its response to wrongful or unethical societal problems. So what we're going to cover in lesson 19 is developing a reflexive mindset for the practice of strategic communication. The feedback activity on page 55, which is what we actually discussed last week in Thursday's class. We asked, I had asked as homework to do the activity on page 55. I asked you to read the exercise or the case study on page 54, which is agents, so it's a closing case study, agents of change in the fight against human trafficking. So now that was homework to be done and submitted through by yesterday, which I think, Nipo, you have done that. Sorry, I just need to light, I've got a little pest in the room here. So I'm just going to light this little candle to keep this pest away so that it does not disturb me while I'm talking. Okay, cool. So the exercise on page 55, you had to do, and it's very important. So what's going to happen in class is I'm going to actually go through the one that was done by Nipo. And then there was one of the videos. So it's a presentation that he's done, which we had asked to do in the presentation format, which we will go through. The other thing that needed to be done was the video that needed to be watched and feedback in terms of interrogating the video and seeing what are the objectives, what was done right, what worked well, and that kind of thing. So we're going to go through also that activity on page 55. And so Nipo, I will share your presentation. And Bali will have to critique you in terms of, I have given you in class another spare rubric, which we are going to use today. So Mbali can use that to actually assess Nipo's presentation. And then what you're going to do in Bali is you are going to scan that and send it through to me and mail it through to me, well, by tomorrow if you can, because then this is covering today's classes, and even if it's tomorrow afternoon, that's also fine. I just need that rubric. The peer rubric is something that is very important to be done. Now, the reason for this is you get to critique your colleagues' work. And when I say critique, it doesn't mean it in a bad way. It just means identifying possibly where they have gaps in where they have missed certain instances. And then that feedback is given to them. And the reason why that feedback is given to them is because it actually helps them close the gaps in terms of presentation skills, which is something that's going to be very key, especially for formative assessment 1. Remember, you are going to give your 12-minute presentation and then 3 minutes for questions. You allow for questions, which is going to be done to a panel. It's not just going to be me or your colleague. It's going to be done to a panel, which you're going to have to prep and sort of get to a level where you're comfortable. You are not, you have eye contact, you are engaging with the audience. That is what we want for your formal assessment, because in the real world, you are going to be faced with board members. The higher up you go in public relations, whichever discipline you may choose to go in. So whether it is going into media relations, you're going into internal communications, all of that, you're going to have to be face to face with your peers in terms of that. And you're going to have to be able to present comfortably, confidently, and with conviction. So which means it's building on the whole thing about planning and research and not leaving the assessment for last minute, because if you're going to try and wing a 12-minute presentation, you can try, you may succeed, but you will probably unlikely to succeed and do very well at it if you haven't had the practice, if you haven't had the feedback, etc. So in terms of lesson 20, chapter 3, pages 64 to 70, social change as an emergent force is something we'll cover. How does social change happen? We'll watch a video. Then how COVID-19 has boosted innovation. Lesson 21 is going to cover pages 70 to 74. We're going to speak to strategic leadership in a VUCA world, planned and emergent strategy. And then lesson 22 deals with 75, pages 75 to 80, successful change management through effective change. On page for lesson 23, between the pages of 80 and 81, we're going to say, we're going to look at a video on how COVID-19 has changed travel, okay? And then lesson 24, please make a note of this. That is taking place on Thursday, 16 March 2023. We are going to have a guest lecturer who's going to be presenting at 2 o'clock. Your sessions, I think, are a little bit, they finish a little bit early, and let's just double check. No, they're not. Yes, they are. Sorry, they are. So your lesson finishes at 13:40. However, please attend. Make a point of attending the guest lecture at 2 o'clock. The date is 13th. Oh, sorry. Let me take that back. Let me start over. There's going to be a guest lecturer who's going to be presenting to us on Thursday, 16 March 2023 at 2 o'clock, which will be just after your lecture. Your lecture is at 13:40. It's going to be Sanele Khoza. She is the CSI manager for Aspen Pharmacare. If you don't know Aspen Pharmacare, you can read about it. They are the #1 pharmaceutical in South Africa. And you have already the Teams link available to you on the roadmap for week 4. So please, 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 if you can actually just go and click on the link and join the because, you know, these are people who are in public relations. Sanele covers the corporate social investment, and she's going to take you through in terms of how Aspen Pharmacare, the group, actually manages it and what is it that they do. So there's several videos that are going to play, and that's why it says here several videos will be shown during class time to ensure that you understand the theory in chapter 3, but it is also very important for you to read the chapter ahead of class so you come prepared. So all of this, remember, is applicable to every single week where you need to read your theory. So by Thursday this week or latest Friday, you should already have the roadmap available for week 5 on Core Campus. And basically you go through it and you do your reading. So remember the FA1 briefing, the document, the briefing document has been shared with you. Claire, our Santon lecturer, was kind enough to do that for us, and it's on Core Campus. Okay, so let us move on. I'm going to stop sharing and then I'm going to share again in terms of my screen and what I need to open up. Okay, so I hope you guys can see this screen. Okay, what I'm sharing right now doesn't look like it's sharing, but I hope it is. Okay, so guys, what I am sharing currently is the exercise in your textbook. Remember, the textbook is Strategic Communication, South African Perspectives. On page 55, after you've been through the whole of chapter 2, what we asked you to do as part of the activity is to research any community or social issue of interest to you, your class or community structure that you're involved in. Apply the symbolic intermediary framework to the topic in the following approach. Research the topic issue. So basically, when we talk of a community or social issue that's of an interest to you, we could talk about, I used the example last week, 16 days of activism of no violence against women and children. If it's an issue that's very close to you, you could use that. Or it's something in a community that you are involved in that speaks to some social issues, right? And that you're involved with, you could actually use that. So as part of the symbolic intermediary framework, right, what was required from this assignment was to research the topic / issue and your own understanding of it, as well as your emotional investment in it. So apart from going and doing research, remember what we said about research. Everything we do, research is integral to actually succeeding in succeeding in actually ensuring that you can implement your plan, right? Because if you don't conduct the necessary research, you cannot be 100% certain that your plan is actually something that is going to be sustainable, something that can be implemented if you don't do the proper research. So an example I used earlier on in another class was the issue on like WITS with the students protesting outside WITS recently. And what had happened then is there is currently this happening where the students are protesting and they are not happy. We cannot then go and do a public relations campaign for WITS where we are spending thousands and thousands of rands. And on the other hand, you have people, the students who are not happy about certain things relating to fees and accommodation and etc. So that's why the research is absolutely important. So you also got to, in your this homework that you were given, is to advise what was the emotional investment that you have in it. Why are you so heavily invested in this specific social issue, right? Identify those activists who have been involved in the issue slash project, establish their interest in the topic or issue, identify their actions to achieve their objectives, evaluate the different communication symbols and platforms that they have employed, and then did they achieve social change and transformation? Judge what you would do differently if presented with an opportunity to act as a symbolic intermediary between different parties. So we're going to have a look at Nipo's presentation, which is on the screen right now, which I am sharing. Okay, so Nipo's presentation, ordinarily, this would have been the case where Nipo would have presented it, but I am presenting it on his behalf. And he can just obviously, when in Bali, you are now going to look at this and you are going to complete the peer review form and send it through before the end of tomorrow. So the social issue that Nipo has chosen is gender inequality in the workforce, gender inequality in the workforce presentation. So what is really nice is I like your picture, firstly, I must say. It's quite a nice, impactful picture showing the issue of gender inequality in the workplace. Okay, so in terms of the situational analysis, he says, I chose this topic because it is important to my heart, and I've seen how it has affected my loved ones. The social issue I've decided to focus on in this presentation is gender inequality in the workplace. My mother is a single mother of 3 children who was a victim of workplace injustice. Gender disparity in the workplace may involve exclusively employing or training one gender for a certain function. And he has done something very good and put an in-text reference, which is wonderful. Okay. She works in the mining industry, which is primarily dominated by men. She is a supervisor, an authority figure, and her male colleagues do not take her seriously, making her job more difficult. So we looked at this and the understanding and from Nipo's perspective, and just some feedback in terms of this is how it's been structured, the use of in-text referencing, very important. So he has indicated it in that way. Also the layout, he's put layout and he's put the words in a certain way, and he's got a certain theme to his presentation. So then what Nipo has done, he's chosen specific ladies or women, so and who are also very invested in this. So activists who deal with gender inequality, right? So Kutlala Holton, I hope I pronounced that correctly. She is the co-managing director at Joe Public United, South Africa's largest majority Black-owned independent agency group, where women have 40% representation on its board. And yeah, so in effect, if you're looking at this, currently 40% representation on its board still speaks to inequality, because remember, it needs to have at least a 50-50 split if we want to be if we want to have no gender biases, right? But there's progress that's made. You know, she is a co-managing director in this advertising agency. Joe Public is quite well known, okay? So secondly, in terms of Kutlala, what she says is the biggest downfall of our transformation journey has been the low quality of education, then the lack of access to acquiring entrepreneurial skills, mindset, and spirit. I blame this on the shortage of positive Black role models within communities. especially those that have been affected by the systemic issues inherited from apartheid. Okay, so that is what he has also included. And Mbali, yeah, Nipo can share his presentation with you if you need to get further clarity, but it's in the recording. You can just reach out to him and he can share with you for critiquing and to do the peer review. Activists also who deal with gender inequality, there's someone else that he has, is Aisha Pando. Aisha Pando is the co-founder and CEO of Sweep South, is one of very few Black female tech startup CEOs, both locally and abroad. She launched Sweep South, Africa's first digital application that provides turnkey home cleaning solutions, in June 2014. Since then, the innovative company has become one of the fastest growing startups in the country. It currently operates in 4 South African cities, providing work opportunities for thousands of women. And that is from Get Smarter. He's used a reference from where he's extracted it. So Sweep South, it has an app, and basically what you can do is you go onto the app and you, based on your location, you identify whether you want your home cleaned and what specifically you need cleaned in your home. So whether it's 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 5 bedrooms, 1 bedroom, and then also outdoor cleaning and other tasks. So it's really like a menu that you can tick off. And then what you do is once you submit this, they bring up potential women who are employed by Sweep South, who are close to, in proximity to where you live, to be able to get to you, and then you would choose. And how the app works, and which is quite nice, is that you then, after the professional has left your home, right? I call them professional because they are professionals, right? Even though they clean your home, they are professionals. Once a professional has left, you automatically get a notification to rate the service of your professional. And when you are choosing from the list, it would then, you would see that maybe it's out of 5, someone has got a 4.5 or 5 out of 5 rating, and then you would choose that person. If that person or professional is not available, then they move on to, you can choose somebody else. And you literally, what it does, payment is online. So you use a credit card or a debit card, and that amount is secured. It's placed in like holding, and then only when the service is completed, then you would actually get a notification that it's been debited off your bank account. The reason why I know this much is because I actually use Sweep South myself, and it's actually a phenomenal service and an amazing product that a woman has actually created for South Africa, which is amazing. Okay, so Aisha Pando's interest in gender inequality. After 2 years as a consultant, Aisha decided to bite the bullet and embark on an entrepreneurial journey with Sweep South, an on-demand tech platform for booking domestic services that connects unemployed and underemployed domestic workers with homeowners who need their services. So that's taken from the World Economic Forum. You can see he's used an in-text reference. I'm actually very happy with the in-text references, Nipo, so well done on that. Just check when you're doing your references that like Get Smarter, it may be in small letters, the G, but well done on the in-text references. I think I have got the message home in terms of consistently mentioning why we need in-text references, up to explaining like in the textbook, like I did the other day, is that even on an academic level, even if you're writing a textbook that is going to be used in academic and higher learning institutions, you certainly need to use in-text references. It's absolutely a given, not negotiable. So then also activists who deal with gender inequality, Tabiso Matlape. In 2010, Tabiso Matlape started as an intern at Chicana Media. In a few years, she was able to transform the South African um, literary landscape. Blackbird Books, the publishing house she launched in 2015, became a groundbreaking new platform to support and nurture a new generation of Black writers, which is pretty phenomenal. I think it's amazing when this entrepreneurial spirit comes through, and individuals who are in jobs or who come up with a brilliant idea start up something, and it becomes a success, which is really amazing. Then it continues, Tabiso continues to say that as the first Black woman to have my own imprint, I have been undermined by all men, Black or white. I have even been undermined by Black women. I was walking with one of my authors one day, and my white male colleague told him, "If you're looking for a real publisher, come speak to her," pointing at a white woman. I've had all kind of backlash, and that's not to say that I've not been embraced by those that love Blackbird. She leads, this is from She Leads African. Once again, just check if the she, if it's in sentence case or not, because I don't know if the S, the L, and the A in She Leads Africa should be in a capital letter, just the first letter, obviously. Okay. Not sure why this slide is not moving. Okay, there we go. So the objective as activists, right? Kutlale Khale Holton, right? Her objective was to improve the education of Black women who live in underdeveloped areas like townships and rural areas, make the media sector accessible to Black women. Aisha Pando create career chances for women by starting a firm that aids domestic workers who are unemployed or underemployed in finding employment. Tabiso Matlape bring more awareness to Black authors, writing so that their tales and voices can be heard. And communication tools that these entrepreneurs have employed was digital application, their writing and literature, and social media. Did they achieve social change? With Kutlala Gala Holton co-managing South Africa's largest majority Black independent agency business, where women constitute 40% of the workforce. I'm just checking, did we say 40% of the workforce or 40% on the leadership? Maybe I am mistaken. If it is 40% of the workforce, it's still short of the 50%. So there's still an imbalance which she has identified. So she says where women constitute 40% of the workforce, they have indeed brought about societal change. Aisha Pando co-founded Sweep South, the first internet-based platform for turnkey home cleaning services in Africa, which hired many women. Tabiso established a publishing firm to aid in the development of a new generation of Black authors. So that is Nipo's conclusion on the individual women entrepreneurs and whether they did in fact achieve social change or not. There were a few questions that were missed in here in terms of this, Nipo. So firstly, Nipo, thank you very much for submitting your presentation prior to today's class. It is appreciated and it makes my work a little bit easier in terms of planning. So the things that I just want to see that in terms of the questions, right? You've given identify activists who have been involved in the issue projects, establish their interest of the topic. You've given us that. What actions have they taken to achieve their objectives? They evaluate the different communication symbols and platforms they have employed. What you could have done for Sweep South, for example, is you could have taken a screenshot of maybe the app, because it's an app-based service. You could have taken the app and actually just put it on there, and then also to indicate the social, because social media, remember, is broad, right? We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have so many different social media platforms. We have LinkedIn. It's to be specific also in terms of identifying which of those platforms that they actually did use, right? Did they achieve social change and transformation? In terms of their individual path, yes, they did. And how are they, I think for me, just the second part in terms of the how is just not 100% clear, but you have given us some context to it. And then judge what would you do differently if presented with an opportunity to act as a symbolic intermediary between different parties. I think that one you didn't include. So, Nipo, once again, well done. Thank you very much. There is more imagery, like we spoke about, less text, but I think in terms of the text, we can still sort of reduce the number of text. Also, just be mindful when you're presenting, is if you've got a very dark background and you have words, also not to put words over people's faces. It's I wouldn't say disrespectful, but just to be mindful of that. Rather keep the text more on the left as opposed to going over someone's face. I really don't know why this, I think it's the network. Also, in terms of the slide that I was looking at, it is very dark. So what you want to do is align your presentation to it being something positive, to it being something that is, because yeah, so the darker colors do, it's a bit, yeah, use more lighter colors, if I can put it that way. So Mbali, apart from what feedback I've given, I've just given top level for Nipo. Yours needs to be a little bit different from what what I've actually given. So yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing it, and I am back on here. What I am going to do is I am going to quickly open up the next exercise that we had to do. And so in week 3, we had to look at a video. Okay, it's coming up. Anheuser-Busch, you saw it right there, offering to buy you a beer. So just to give you, it was this exercise that I'd given you, Anheuser-Busch. You had to look at it and critique it. Let's have a look at the video first, and then we will look at Nipo's feedback that he had sent through. I'm going to now play it. If for some reason there is a technical glitch and you cannot see it, or you cannot, it is accessible on week 3. The link is there, but I'm going to play it. Anheuser-Busch, you saw it right there, offering to buy you a beer if you get vaccinated. It's all part of an effort to help the Biden administration hit that goal of 70% of Americans partially vaccinated by July 4th.
some of the other incentives are being offered in various states, including lottery prizes, college tuition, sports tickets. They even said, you could go get a lap dance and get your vaccine at the same place. So Cesar Vargas is joining us right now to talk about all of this new effort with the White House. He's the Chief External Affairs Officer at Anheuser-Busch. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Candace. It's nice to be with you.
And we appreciate that. I assume like any moment right now, the props team will be bringing in free samplings just so that we know exactly what we're talking about here as research. How did you guys come about this whole concept?
Well, this is something we've kind of been up to for a while, which is, figuring out how we as a company can kind of help our overall recovery and help accelerate our recovery. And one part of that is this opportunity to support this White House goal of getting 70% adults vaccinated by July 4th. We know that we have the power through our amazing brands to reach our consumers in a way that maybe others can't. And so being able to share some information with them and generate some excitement around this goal and see if we can make a big push during the month of June just seemed like a natural way that we could step in and help complement what everybody else is doing. Because what's neat about this is it's not about Anheuser-Busch as much as it's about all of us coming together and trying to get across the finish line and get through this pandemic. But we certainly are happy to play our part. And this beer giveaway is just one part of what we've been doing, Candace. We've also been announcing that we're going to be investing in our facilities across the U.S., $1 billion over the next 2 years, because job creation and economic prosperity will be an important part of our recovery. And we've been supporting the bar and restaurant sector, the bar and hospitality sector that's been so devastated by this pandemic as well. So,
but I want to focus on the vaccine part right now, because only about 51% of Americans have at least one dose. Why do you think that the beer incentive might get us to that 70% part?
Well, I think it's just one element of hopefully what will get us there. Again, through our brands, we have the ability to reach people with a level of credibility that maybe others don't. So we're happy to kind of lend our voice and encourage beer drinkers and our consumers, those that haven't been vaccinated, to think about getting that shot here as we make this push over the next 30 days. So it really just complements, I think, what other companies are doing, what the government is doing, what nonprofits are doing, as we all kind of come together.
It is a stroke of marketing genius, I will say. You get the commercial out there, you get segments like this, you get Anheuser-Busch. So you guys selling beer or giving out the beer, if we get to that 70% part, I believe like the marketing aspect that you're getting is way outweighs, how much those beer is going to cost.
Yeah, it's not about marketing for us, though. This is about something that we always do, which is figuring out, when our country needs us, how we can step up and play a role. So we're happy to do it. There is going to be some cost involved here, I assure you, but we think it's well worth it. We see it as an investment, really, Candace, an investment in our recovery, an investment in our communities, investment in our country. So when you start thinking about it that way, then it's worth every penny.
Yeah. How much is it going to cost you guys if we get to 70%?
We don't know. We're kind of in uncharted territory here. We've done some giveaways before, but nothing at this scale. This is the biggest beer giveaway in our history. So we're not exactly sure. We got a few weeks to get ready as we aim for this goal by July 4th. But like I said,
I'm asking for a friend. What if we're already vaccinated?
You get free beer too, because that's the beauty of what we're doing here. Is it's not for getting vaccinated. It's when we get this 70% goal, the beer is on us, America. Whether you've already been vaccinated, whether you haven't been vaccinated, we're buying a round for everybody.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. All right. Cool. Well, it is a great marketing idea, but I love that a lot of these companies are coming together and trying to do what they can to get us a 70% threshold, and especially your company that taps into many people who are refusing to get the vaccine at this point. So sorry, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Okay, so that was a video that we watched, and what I'm going to do is now I'm going to go through to Nipo's document that he sent through, and then we can talk through it. So Nipo, thank you very much for attempting the exercise. So basically, it was to critique this campaign and to give some insight as to what were some of the objectives that were covered. And Bali, you're going to do the very same thing now, is you're going to do a peer review in terms of how Nipo has actually gone through and sort of critique this campaign, and what are some of the points that he may have missed or gaps that you can give him in terms of this. So it's the campaign overview, right? The campaign by Anheuser-Busch was aimed to help incentivize people to get vaccinated, right? They teamed up with the White House as part of their corporate social investment, I think that's initiative. So I'm just going to make this slightly bigger. So the campaign by Anheuser-Busch was aimed to help incentivize people to get vaccinated. They teamed up with the White House as part of their corporate social investment initiative. Something very important to note, Nipo, is that we need to make sure when we do work, and this goes for you as well in Bali. So it's incitative. It's actually initiative, which is spelled incorrectly. Okay. So their main objective of the campaign was to get more American citizens vaccinated, announce Anheuser-Busch foreseeable goals in relation to the pandemic, supporting the bar and restaurant sector. Just one quick question. If I had to ask, the way that I taught in class how to write a SMART goal, is it smart? Yes, no? I don't think so. So Nipo, some work to think of, some food for thought for you and in Bali. When you write objectives, get more American citizens vaccinated, announce Anheuser-Busch foreseeable goals in relation to the pandemic. It doesn't say much there. Supporting the bar and restaurant sector. I don't know, maybe it's something you can relook at. In terms of the target audience, US adults and beer drinkers. Very important to mention that no underage drinking. So yes, we're saying US adults and beer drinkers, but maybe to mention that. Messages remind everyone of the meaningful moments, big and small, that happen when people usually come together, and how many times when we say, let's grab a beer to someone, it's usually about so much more than just the beer. Get vaccinated and we buy you a beer, right? So in terms of the evaluation, the campaign was successful as Anheuser expanded the Let's Grab a Beer campaign by joining its efforts with the National Restaurant Association's Restaurant Revival campaign. MTM steps up the COVID fight. That was another sort of video that you were asked to critique. In this campaign, Nipo, there isn't any in-text referencing which you did in the presentation, something to think about. So, Mbali, you can do a peer review on this. If you need the document, I am sure Nipo will be more than willing to send it to you. Peer review, please can I have it tomorrow before the end of day tomorrow, so before 5 o'clock. If I can have those two peer reviews. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and then we're going to move on. I just need to, as I said, I'm having huge challenges with my screen this week. Well, with my screen now because of load shedding. I'm just waiting for the presentation to come up. Okay, so in terms of PR3 week 4, okay, so chapter 2 covered strategic communication and symbolic intermediation. Chapter 3 is strategy as an emergence and emergent strategy, understanding social change. Okay. So both these chapters, you would have covered chapter 2 in the week before, and I did ask to read that you guys read it a couple more times because there are quite complex terminology in it that you would need to use. So if you haven't read it again, please, I would just reiterate if you can read through it again. Chapter 3, Strategy as Emergence and Emergent Strategy, Understanding Social Change. That is what we're going to cover. Okay. So we've gone through the lesson plan. So this week we will complete Chapter 2, Strategic Communication and Symbolic Intermediation in Lesson 19. We will start a new chapter, Chapter 3, Strategy as Emergence and Emergent Strategy, Understanding Social Change. And then later in the week on Thursday, we've got a guest lecture who's going to talk about emergent strategies. Please do not miss that lecture. It's via Teams. Please connect so that you are able to have a look and get an understanding from a corporate perspective, someone who's actually doing sort of like a social change with regard to corporate social investment. And Aspen Pharmacare, the Pharmacare group, as I said, they are massive. They are currently positioned or ranked #1 in South Africa. Although they are ranked #1 in South Africa, they are a global organization. So please keep that in mind. Okay, so the learning outcomes for lesson 19, and I'm trusting that everyone is going to do the homework that needs to be done today, because there is homework today, right, that needs to be submitted to me by this evening or tomorrow morning. So we're going to get these links up as soon as possible. I will send it on WhatsApp as well, and they're going to be accessible on Core Campus. So it takes about half an hour just to download these slides. So once I get to the section where we need to get you to present your activity on an IGES on page 69, I will stop the video. I will try and get it uploaded, right? And then the link sent to you. So you would in this afternoon listen through the video, and also then you would have done the homework, which is due for tomorrow, because it's going to be presented tomorrow. So I would need that. So the learning outcomes for lesson 19, strategic communication and symbolic intermediation, is to develop a reflexive mindset for the practice of strategic communication, understand the current thinking around strategic communication, understand what a multi-paradigm in strategic communication means, understand the symbolic intermediary role of strategic communicators, describe who, where, and are the main custodians in strategic communication thinking. So who is responsible for this role, explain what a future fit strategic communicator is, explain various contextual demands that require social innovation and legitimacy. So those are a whole host of themes that we're going to cover. So in the lesson here, we've covered the activity that was on page 55, which we discussed in week 3. So the peer rubric for presenting needs to be done. So the peer rubric provides students with the opportunity to evaluate their peers while also learning. Feedback provided in this activity can be applied to the formative 1 assessment. So what we're going to do is the exercise on page 55, we have covered it. And I think what we're going to do is we are now going to move on to lesson 20. I'm just looking at page 69 quickly. I think that is not the right page, but I may be mistaken. Okay. So in terms of page 68 and 69, there's a reflection exercise at the bottom of page 68. Social media, let me just read it. So page 68, right? And we're already now on chapter 3. Right at the bottom of page 68, you'll see a heading called Reflection. Social media such as Facebook and Twitter has become a powerful source of news that sometimes surpasses traditional media in providing real-time coverage. However, social media does not simply reflect the perspectives of the society, but also possesses the potential to influence the perspectives of that society in a manner that is beyond the control of any individual institution or economy. For example, an investigation by the New York Times published in November 2019 alleges the former United States President Donald Trump used social media to propagate conspiracy theories, many of which have remained unverified. In what way or to what extent do you think that social media organizations should assume greater responsibility for monitoring and controlling the narratives of people? Okay, so I just want to mention that is going to be an exercise that you need to complete. Okay, you need to complete that exercise for me and present it, and you're going to do the very same thing. You're going to do a peer review. So the ones that you have, the copies, you can actually just ask them on campus to make additional copies for you, or you can, I'm sure they will be able to, if you ask Jackie or Grace, they will be able to make copies for you, or you need to go to the library, they will assist you with it. So what you need to do is you need to actually be able to use those peer rubrics for each other and to be able to critique where your gaps are so that you can only get better from here. Okay, so lesson 20 starts with chapter 3. Okay, so what we're going to do in chapter 3 is we're going to focus on social change as an emergent force, understanding the sources of social change strategy as emergent versus strategy as prediction and control. So that is in essence covered from page 64, which is the introduction, right? And it goes up right to page 70. Okay, make sure you read it and that you gain a proper understanding of what it says. It's a less complicated chapter, if I can call it that, or complex chapter when you compare it to chapter 2, which has a lot of technical terminology. This is much easier and you will be able to understand it. Okay, So strategy as emergence, and emergent strategy and understanding social change. Okay, that is on page 63 for your reference, just in case you need to refer it, and 64 and 65. I'm not sure why my slides keep jamming. Okay, so learning outcomes for lessons 20 to 24. To develop flexibility as a strategist to respond to any changing reality. Now, ultimately, you are now in public relations year 3, okay? You are meant to be thinking on a strategic level. So like the textbook says, your PR3 textbook, Strategic Communication, South African Perspectives, we expect you to think strategically. So if I use this example, if during COVID-19, right, you were in an organization and you were the public relations strategist, right, would you have been able to be a trusted advisor to that organization to be able to deal with the changing reality, not just internally, but externally? So meaning that you have to look at the external environment and the internal. Would you be successful in doing that? That is the level of thinking that you've got to apply on this level. Show awareness of the environmental context characterized by volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. My favorite question that I didn't ask today because we're not face to face, but let me just put it in there so you remember when we do see each other again, that what is happening in the world today, right? That is exactly linked to this comment here or this learning outcome. If I say, okay, leave global, what is happening in South Africa today, right? To be able to understand the environment, and that every day there are changes in the environment and there's different kinds of news. Understand the advantages of an emergent approach to strategy formulation. So it is very key to understand why we need to have an emergent approach mentality when we are formulating strategy in order to be successful. Distinguish between strategy that emerges as compared to strategy that is deliberate. So there are two different aspects: strategy that is emergent and strategies that are deliberate. Very important to be able to define that. I just want to check in terms of my timing because I don't want the video to be too large to be able to download. I just want to have a quick look. Okay. So in about 10 minutes, I'm going to stop this recording and continue with the next one. That is what you need to understand, you know, as a PR strategist, PR manager, and eventually when you get to a director level someday in your career, you're going to have to know these things: the strategy that is emergent and the strategy that's deliberate, because all of these outcomes are integral to becoming and thinking on a strategic level. Okay, so a well-compiled strategy is essential when organizations want the public's behavior and the attitude to change the target groups that their success depends on. Strategy is a practical tool that guides any business. It keeps the organization focused and ensures that it remains goal-oriented in a context defined by change. So what we're saying here is when a strategy is compiled, it's done really well, right? This is linked to how, and when we say public's behavior and attitude or change the target groups, right? We want to change perception, right? To change it from, if it's negative, to a positive perception. If it is, it's positively positioned, to actually make sure that this is maintained and it continues being positioned as in a positive light. right? So strategy, public relations strategy, is a practical tool that what it does, it is like you are the captain of a ship and you are guiding a business or navigating it through the sea, right? And when there is a storm, what to do. When there's no storm, it's a different scenario. So it keeps the organization focused and ensures that it remains goal orientated and in a context defined by change. So change, we exist, meaning we live and we work in an ever-changing environment. Nothing remains a constant or the same. So change means getting involved, taking action that is critical for the business. This is where strategy, impact, and vision blend. So remember, when you're putting together a public relations strategy, a corporate communication strategy, a media strategy, remember that you need to take into consideration what is the company's mission, what is their vision, what is their objectives that they're trying to achieve. And in order to help navigate a business through uncertainty, you've got to be an agile leader. Now, an agile leader means that when change takes place, sometimes it is change that you see coming, right? You foresee it. Sometimes it is change like COVID-19 pandemic that just hits everyone, right? And it's almost like a shock treatment, is that how do you recover from that? And the agility to be able to think clearly in the midst of a crisis is a skill that you will need to build on if you venture into those disciplines, especially media relations, crisis management, etc. So strategy is prescriptive, which assumes a purely formalized and rational approach. So when you look at your PRISA 7-step plan, right, it's prescriptive that you first start with your situational analysis. And what this means, and I have to emphasize this again, it's where your research comes into play, right? It is something that is formalized and it has a rational approach. So it's formal, it has steps by steps by steps. And you use that approach, right? So it's descriptive. Strategy is descriptive, where strategy is more informal and emergent. So when we talk prescriptive, it means that it's something that's already in place, it's step by step by step. When it's descriptive, right, it's informal, emergent. Look at COVID-19, right? It emerged and then the world had to deal with it. So these strategies then will emerge in order to assist a company, an organization to navigate through the crisis. It is therefore essential for practitioners and academics to consider the pattern and character of the strategy formulation process among organizations. So this chapter outlines an overview of social change as an emerging force and the role in strategy formulation. It's also going to highlight the emergent nature of strategy and its response to wrongful or unethical social problems. So in our country, if you look at, or around the world, but if you look closer to home in our country, the issues of unethical societal problems, if you look at, and you can Google this and read on the case study if you haven't before, the Bell Pottinger saga. It's a company that is not based in South Africa that was tasked to do the PR campaign, and that was just, it went down a wrong path and ended very badly. And today, when any public relation practitioner speaks of or mentions the name Bell Pottinger, immediately it has a negative association with the name in its sense. So what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to stop sharing. I am going to download this video, and then I'm going to continue with the next one in terms of what we need to do. So remember the exercise on page 68, at the bottom of page 68, it's the reflection exercise that starts with social media. and it follows through to the top of page 69. That is something that's homework. I need it before tomorrow. So I would need you to put it together and send it to me, because tomorrow, I just want to check here, we actually have class at 8:15, which means that in essence, you would have had to get it done today for presentation for class in class tomorrow. So if you can please send that through to me, I'd really appreciate that. I am going to stop recording now, and I'm going to label these as part 1, part 2, etc. And I'll catch you in the next recording.